Welcome to class. This video is part of a series where we dive deep into modern digital identity. Today we're discussing how traditional approaches to verifying an identity online need to transform to adopt reusable digital credentials. Each of these sessions are intended to stand on their own, so if you're already familiar with some of the concepts, please use the times codes in the description to skip to the parts that interest you. I'm glad to be your host today. I'm Richard Esplin. I'm head of product for Doc Labs. My professional focus has been on decentralized identity solutions since 2018. Where I've had the opportunity to work on a variety of projects. This series is sponsored by Doc Labs. We've been innovating in the digital identity space since 2017 and have a number of customers using our solutions in production. This experience gives us valuable insight into how modern approaches to digital identity can streamline business processes. In today's example, we'll focus on Janice. She does most of her business online, but each time an organization needs to verify her legal identity, she's required to pull out a physical document issued by her government and then take a selfie to prove she matches the document. This process of verifying the physical document and selfie is managed by an identity verification vendor or an identity document verification vendor. We're going to call them IDV vendors for short. The IDV vendor's customer is the organization that Janice is trying to do business with. So in this case, we're going to start with her opening a bank account. So that's the customer of the IDV vendor. And Janice is the end customer. So Janice decides some Saturday morning she wants to open a bank account. She finds a credit union she likes. She goes to their website. She decides to open an account, but the website needs to verify, the financial institution needs to verify that she is who she says she is. You know, KYC, know your customer, anti-money laundering, AML kind of checks. So they tell her to go get her driver's license. She's got to go get her purse, find her driver's license. And then it says she needs to take a selfie so she can compare her picture live with the picture on the driver's license. She's got to think about whether she wants the selfie in her bathrobe or not, but she's going to go ahead and do it. Takes the selfie. The checks might pass. Maybe the automated process fails and there has to be a manual step or two, a couple minutes delay, but she's in. She can create her account. So a week passes by. Janice decides she likes this credit union. She wants to apply for a loan. So another Saturday morning, she goes to the website, starts filling out the loan application process. But they require her to prove her legal identity again. So she's got to go find her purse, pull out the driver's license, decide again if she wants to take the selfie. She decides to do it. Everything goes through. Of course, if the document failed last time, the automated check, it's probably going to fail this time. So there might be another manual process, a couple minutes of delay. Now she's in, she can proceed. She can get her loan. Fantastic. She intends to use this loan to go car shopping, but it'll be a lot easier to go car shopping if she can rent a car to go through the different lots. So she finds a place where she can rent the car. She realizes, oh wait, this car rental place was recommended by her credit union. She gets a discount by being a credit union member. She goes in, she sees that it's the place she likes, but they need to check. They need to check that she get her legal ID, make sure she's licensed to drive, make sure she's the appropriate age, make sure that she's not lying about who she is. So again, she's got to find her driver's license. She's got to fill it all out. And now she can go ahead and complete the car rental. Pretty exhausting, but she got her business done. No one is happy with this process. Janice is frustrated because pulling out her driver's license and taking selfies are just obstacles to her achieving her goal. She's also frustrated she has to give unnecessary data. Why does the bank account need to know that why does the credit union need to know that she has a license to drive? Why does the rental car place need to know her exact birthday in order to know that she's of the legal age to rent? And she's nervous about all this information she's giving. Who's going to access the data? Are they going to resell it to other third parties? What is the purpose they're going to use the data for? Is it liable to get hacked? All this unease makes the process not a great experience for Janice. The IDV customer, whether it's the credit union or the rental car company, they're frustrated because they know that Janice is likely not to come back as soon as they ask her to go get her driver's license. They also realize that if anything goes wrong, if Janice is delayed, if the document verification check fails, then Janice is going to come to them for support. But Janice isn't using their system to take the picture of the driver's license. She's using the IDV vendor system. And so they've got to support a supplier system, which is always complicated. And they're hesitant, due to these problems, they're hesitant to verify the identity when it's not absolutely required. There's other places where it'd be nice to make sure that Janice is still who she says she is, but they don't want to do that because it's expensive to integrate with, it's complicated, and the user experience isn't very great. Now the IDV vendor, they're also not terribly happy. Every time Janice needs to take a picture of a document, they've got a whole back-end system that has to be triggered. And some subset of these document verifications defy automation. So there's a whole manual process, and that has to be redone each time the document comes through. Similarly, they don't have a direct relationship with Janice when she runs into trouble. So they have to work through the IDV customer, the financial institution or the rental car company, in order to make sure that Janice succeeds at getting onboarded. And Janice's driver's license is from the state of Utah. Utah in the United States is currently evaluating, is running a pilot for mobile digital driver's licenses that come directly from the government. And when that happens, then people don't need the IDV vendor to take pictures of the driver's license. They'll just use that directly with the rental car company or with the credit union. So where does that leave the IDV vendor fitting into this native digital use case? The world is becoming digital, but our identity is stuck in the past. Shouldn't we be digital natives by now? There is a better way. The IDV vendor can use their existing business relationships and their existing technology to turn the verified identity data from Janice's driver's license into a portable and reusable digital credential. And she can then reuse that with all the customers that the IDV vendor has in their ecosystem. So the scenario that first Saturday morning when Janice goes to the credit union, that stays the same. She goes, she finds her driver's license, she takes the picture, she takes the selfie, the document succeeds or goes through the manual process, and then Janice is authenticated. But in this scenario, the IDV vendor says, hey, Janice, this is great. Here's a digital credential, and you can put it in your wallet. Whether that's a dedicated identity wallet that lives on Janice's mobile device, or whether it's the credit union wallet the credit union mobile app that she's already downloaded for her device, and she can just store the credentials, the identity data there. It then lives in Janice's possession. So Janice is dealing with that IDV vendor as an issuer until she gets that credential. And then she can reuse that credential with any of the IDV vendor's existing ecosystem of customers who want to act as relying parties or as verifiers of that credential. Janice can go apply for the loan, scan the credential. She wants to rent the car, scan the credential. In fact, it's so easy, she might use the credential for new use cases. It doesn't cost any more to integrate that credential into additional use cases from the existing verifiers or with new verifiers. So perhaps Janice decides she's going to volunteer to coach a youth soccer league. Well, she's got to do her background check, so scan the credential. And she's thrilled when she goes to the soccer league site to realize that they're using the same IDV vendor, so she can reuse that credential. She doesn't have to go find her driver's license. Everyone benefits from this new approach. Janice really appreciates that her access to the services and products is significantly faster without the hurdle of going to find her driver's license all the time. That lowers her frustration level when she's doing her business online. And she has greater confidence because she knows exactly who she's sharing data with and what that data is and what the purpose is. The IDV customer, who's acting as a verifier of the digital credentials, they also appreciate that there's reduced user drop-off, there's fewer complaints. Fewer complaints leads to lower support costs, but also when somebody does call in, they're just talking about the verification process because they got the credentials separately and dealt with the issue at that point in time. And because the risk of using an identity verification is lower, they're able to leverage identity claims in more situations. They can incorporate it in other places of their business and automate more processes, which lowers their overall cost of supporting of doing business and meeting their goals. The IDV vendor as an issuer, they probably benefit the most. Not only do they lower their service cost because they're validating these documents fewer times. They only have to do it the first time when they create the credential. They get better customer retention because their customers get all the benefits we just talked about. But now they have a direct relationship with the identity subject in GDPR terms, with the credential holder, with Janice. And with that direct relationship, if Janice has a problem, they can work directly with Janice to solve it. And now they can go to Janice and say, hey, Janice, are you aware of these additional credentials that might benefit you? We can also help you use your credentials at these other vendors that you haven't previously worked with. And there's entire new lines of business that can open because they have that direct relationship with the consumer. How exactly does this work? as we talked about, the challenge, the fundamental challenge we're trying to solve is that the verifier online, the relying party, the IDV customer, they don't trust Janus, the end customer, the identity holder. But they do trust the IDV vendor. They've used the IDV vendor for a while to check the physical documents. And so we need to make sure that the information the holder provides to the verifier, that the verifier knows that it hasn't been tampered with or changed since it was issued by the IDV vendor. And the way we do that was with verifiable credentials. The IDV vendor signs the credential with a cryptographic key and sticks the public part of that key somewhere that the verifier can access it. And then when the holder carries that data around, if they ever modify it, it'll make that signature fail when they hand it to the verifier. And we like that issuer key to be put onto a third party. We call that a verifiable data registry, because it allows it provides a little bit of additional privacy that the issuer can't see everywhere Janus might be using that credential. And it also allows that the system continues to function if the issuer service isn't available for some period of time. And it provides some scalability protections as well. So the verifier can always get that key to make sure things work properly. And of course, the verifier can cache that key depending on the business requirements. So what exactly is a credential? Well, as we see on the left, credentials a blob of data. It's just JSON. And in this JSON, we see that there's a set of attributes. These are the claims that the Janus, the holder, is providing to the relying party, to the verifier, the rental car company in this case. There's a set of issuer information that shows that DID, and in this case, so a DID is a decentralized identifier, which is a World Wide Web Consortium, a W3C standard for managing these decentralized ecosystems. Issuer profiles for verifiable credentials in this case. And you can see here that this DID is hosted on the DOC blockchain. So it's on that public permissionless blockchain that allows it to be available at scale. And then, so we have that issuer information, a little bit of information about Acme University. So this specific credential is a diploma, so it doesn't have to be just your driver's license. It can be other scenarios. And then at the bottom, we have the signature showing that the issuer has provided exactly this information, and that can be checked later, as we'll see, to make sure it hasn't been tampered with. When that shows up in Janus's mobile wallet, we get this middle view, and it's got the same pieces. You can see the valid check, the signature's been checked. You get some issuer information where the logo's here and the issuer DID's down there, and you get some attributes. The attributes that the issuer attested to. The credential doesn't just appear in the mobile wallet. It can also appear in other systems. It can be provided as a PDF to the user, in which case it would have a QR code that could point to an online verifiable version. And in this case, we're showing the web view as it would show up in our system. And here you see the same capabilities, the same components of the credential, the attributes that are being attested to, the issuer information, as well as a signature that shows that it was cryptographically verified. And the QR code can allow that holder to pull it into their mobile wallet at any point that they want to take control of that credential. So it makes distributing that credential much easier for the issuer. Then the holder can share that credential with any verifier that wants to check the attributes, any relying party. And they do that by providing a cryptographic proof. Now, the cryptographic proof is generated in that mobile wallet, where the verifier provides what's called a proof presentation request. They say, hey, we want to know this information about you, dear holder. And then the wallet, whether they scan a QR code or they click on a link, it says, here are the credentials that are in your wallet that can satisfy this proof. So on the left, we see that first screen in the mobile wallet where it lets us select the credential we want to use. And we might have multiple credentials that would satisfy a specific proof, but a specific presentation request. And we say, yes, we want to use this one. And we can see which issuer it came from, make sure it's the right one, and is cryptographically valid. It hasn't had any problems that would make it unable to be used for this use case. Then we proceed to the second screen that comes from the mobile wallet. And this shows a capability that's unique to some class types of verifiable credentials. And that is selective disclosure. So this is really valuable for advanced privacy preserving scenarios where I don't have to share the holder doesn't have to share everything in their wallet, all the attributes of a claim. They can select just the attributes that are important for this specific use case. So in this case, Janice is signing up with an employer. The employer wants to validate that she has the diploma that she said she does, but she doesn't necessarily want to share the date of birth that she gave to the university. The employer already knows her legal name, and if she's providing proof of the diploma, that's good enough. So she can exclude those two attributes from the proof and just share the stuff that's important for this use case. Now, this capability is not part of standard W3C credentials. It requires select disclosure we expect will be part of a future W3C standard. But for now, it requires advanced privacy preserving capabilities such as DOC provides in our zero knowledge proof credentials, our anonymous credentials. Once she's selected the attributes she wants to share, she's going to hit continue. And that's going to generate another JSON blob that has the attributes she's chosen to share as well as a proof. And you can see in the middle here, the proof signature that comes in that JSON blob. We don't display that in the user interface, so it's not in the screenshot on the right. But I wanted to make sure you saw it. Cheated a little bit, and I pulled this out of our documentation, so it's not exactly for this proof. But it shows that signature that can then be verified using the attributes in the credential that got shared and the public key that the issuer has published. And they can put that together and check whether that signature is valid or not. And if it's not valid, they know some funny business has happened. But if it is valid, then they know everything came directly from the issuer without getting tampered with. So on the right, we see the way that shows up in Doc's user interface, where you can see that we did the check diploma test. We see that the credential was valid, the cryptography was valid, so it's verified correctly. And we see the presentation JSON that includes just the attributes that we chose to share. So the date that was earned, the degree name, the degree type, not the legal name or the birthday in this scenario. So now we're going to discuss some of the key benefits this approach provides to participants in this ecosystem. And the first one I want to call out is that you can verify once and then reuse the credential everywhere. It's a simple approach. The IDV vendor is going to review the physical document. They're then going to issue the digital credential. And then they can leverage their existing customer network to allow that credential to be verified. So when the holder visits the supported site, the holder can use a credential instead of the document. And we get a big smiley face. Life's easier for the holder. They're going to complain less. And of course, fewer customer complaints is better for everybody. And the issuer only has to verify the document once. And that's always easier. Second key benefit is that we're now moving the ecosystem from physical identification documents to digital verifiable credentials. And so the IDV vendor, because they issued a digital credential based on the physical document, they're now training their customers to verify credentials instead of having to make their own decisions about whether they trust the physical document, what fraud signals they're worried about, when they're going to draw their threshold. They just say, look, I have a relationship with the IDV vendor. I trust them to know what's valid and what isn't. And now I'm trained to accept this credential. I'm also trained to accept any other credential that the IDV vendor wants to offer me. So the holder now rarely needs their physical document. The holder information is always transferred with consent. The issuer can now introduce new credential types without changing the API used by the verifier. They can introduce those credential types to the holder because they have that direct relationship. And as new digital formats emerge, the verifier is already expecting to get digital credentials from the IDV vendor. So they don't have to change their systems to consume government native credentials. The IDV vendor is well positioned to offer that service and stays core to that relationship instead of forcing the customer to go find a new provider. Third key benefit is the one we will all appreciate in our daily lives, which is that the user experience gets so much better. That when we're working online, we go to the website, it displays a QR code or a link. We press it and say, yes, I want to verify. And whether we're scanning that with our mobile devices or whether we're clicking the link, we don't have to go find our physical document anymore. We don't have to take our selfie. Now we're onboarded. And you click the link, you approve the data going, and you're done. Fewer steps mean less drop off. And of course, big smiley face, verifier doesn't have as much customer support to do. And that's always a benefit. Now, Doc provides some useful tools that will help you roll out a verifiable credential-based solution. Doc Certs that you see a screenshot here is our web interface. It works well for demos, in-person use cases, as well as setting up API-based solutions, such as under that developer menu, you can get your API keys. The Certs API is a REST API. It allows you to do everything that the web UI supports, as well as some additional capability. And it's all documented. Each of the calls, as you see on the left, each of these REST API calls has a clear example, as well as the documentation, as well as an example of what that webhook response would look like. And we also provide, on the right, you can see the Swagger UI that shows Open API spec documentation. So you can use that in any of your Open API tooling. It makes it really easy to consume. And we also recognize that holder. We need to make sure that holder can keep the credentials safe. So we provide a mobile wallet to do that. You can use the Doc wallet. You can also use a white label wallet that you brand for your specific use case. And we also provide an SDK, a JavaScript SDK that you can embed into an existing application. And you can see on the right, the GitHub repository where it has all the details about how that SDK works. In the video description, we're going to provide some useful links where you can play with these tools. You can get more information. And of course, if you have any questions, we hope you reach out. We would love to help you transition to reusable digital identities and ensure smooth relationships with your customers, the relying parties, for years to come. So thank you for your time, and we hope to get in touch with you in the future.